So let's find these limits to infinity. Now these are basically just exponential functions. So let's think about what our exponential functions do. If we have like 2 to the x power, it goes up like that, right? And and you might shift if you put +1, different place. Remember the transformation stuff. If you have 1/2 to the x power, it goes the other direction. Okay. And then if you remember negatives and positives, they flip them and switch them and everything. So that's what we have here. So this, first of all, that's a 1/2, right? So that your base function looks like that. And then this flips it, since it's on the outside, that flips it over the y-axis. It flips it over the y-axis. No, it doesn't. It flips it over the x-axis. My bad. Flips it upside down.
Yeah, it's x.
I always think of negative x squared. Where does negative x squared go? It flips upside down. So it's going to flip upside down. So let me change the color here. So it's going to flip upside down first. And then this right here, if you think of this as negative x plus 2, so it's like the x plus 2 function, which this moves it, that moves it left 2, but then this flips it over the other axis. So the graph is actually going to turn this way, and it's going to move. It really doesn't matter which way it moves, because doesn't matter really if it moves left or right, because your limit to infinity is basically it's asking what's the function value getting closer to as x is getting further and further positive. So we're looking at going over here as x gets further and further positive, and our graph is going down like this, and this doesn't even matter either. The +3 just means that the whole thing gets shifted up 3. So what's the limit as x goes to positive infinity? It's negative infinity.
That was just kind of a practice one, so now we have to do.
And you can test it by plugging in a big number and asking yourself, what does that number do? Plug in like 100 here. So that would be negative 102. So here, let me redo that. That's this negative 1/2 of negative 102.
No matter what you do, your answer is
plus 3. The negative 102 means it's 2 to the positive 102, and it's a negative, and then you're adding 3 to the outside of it, which doesn't really do anything to it. Because this number's so huge, negative, doesn't really matter that you just moved it up a little bit. It's still such a huge number, and it's a negative number.
So when you're taking the limit to infinity, you get rid of all the low order.
It's like low order terms, basically.
Okay, yeah. Low order terms don't really matter, sure. So you're basically just doing end behavior. This is really just an end behavior question. So the end behavior, this doesn't really have anything to do with the end behavior.
Yeah.
I don't think this does either, right?
No.
So all that matters is that it's that function, but it's a negative x, and the negative with the x means it's flipped this way over the y-axis. So what's the limit as x gets
if
bigger?
You're taking a negative, if we're taking a negative root, then it makes it a fraction, right? So it's getting closer to 0?
No, if you're doing a negative root, nope. Well, you could think of it a couple ways. 2 to the negative x is the same as 1 over 2 to the positive x, which is like 1 over 2 to the x.
That's what I meant.
It's not a root. It's not a root. It just flips it. A root is a square root.
I didn't mean to say root. I meant to say x.
Yep, that's what it does.
Yeah. Okay.
So what's your function going to do? Your function, as it goes to infinity, it's going close to 0. Oh, but hold on. This does matter now, because I shifted it all up to 3. So it actually doesn't get closer to 0. It gets closer to 3, because it's 0 plus 3.
So why did it not matter at the top of it?
Because this one was... because this was the end that was going radically down or up. But when it's the end that's approaching the asymptote, then it matters. Then the vertical shift matters. Does that make sense? So your answer is 3 here. So your answer for that is 3. And again, plug it in and see. Plug in 100.
If it's not.
What's 2 to the negative 102? What's that really close to?
0.
It's really close to 0. Because it's 1 over 2 to the 102.
Yeah.
And so this thing is going to 0. And so this whole thing is going to 3. Sorry for all the mess I'm making. Okay, so for this one, same sort of thing. We can say, what's this whole thing doing right here? I'm trying to think of what other ways that teachers might explain this or tell you how to do it.
Would it be
But-
the same way as number 1?
Let's first clean this up, okay? Here, I think this is the best way to do it. Let's simplify this to negative x plus 2, and then let's flip this.
Yes.
With that negative right there, it really means it's negative 1/4. I'm sorry, not 1/4, 4, because it flips, right?
Yeah.
4 to the x plus 2. That's probably the way that he teaches it to you.
And then you
So
throw
this
like
is
up and
equal to negative 4 to the x plus 2 plus 3. So as this goes to negative infinity, as this goes like negative 100,
It's like negative.
the
98.
bigger negative it gets, what is this thing doing? What's this thing getting closer and closer to?
Infinity. Right?
No, because it's negative. It's a negative number.
Oh, so negative infinity?
No, because what's 4 to the? It's getting close to the 0. What's 4 to the negative of a big number?
Oh, I didn't realize you put it back to 4.
Yeah, I was flipping it around.
So it would be 4 to the 1,000.
Wait, if you flipped it though, why does the negative go back to the top?
Because now I'm going toward negative infinity, not positive infinity. Now I'm plugging in numbers that are big and negative. So here's what this thing equaled when I did my little algebra manipulation. The little algebra manipulation gave me negative 4 to the x plus 2 plus 3.
Okay, so you didn't actually get rid of the negative. It's just
I didn't get
going
rid.
with a negative.
I did get rid of the negative, but
Yeah.
now I'm plugging negative 1,000 or 100 into it.
Got it.
So that number is going towards 0, and who cares that it's negative 0? And this whole thing is going toward 3. So your answer here is 3.